Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business and let's wake up those football gods here on this Monday morning. And I hope you tune in tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, for our live stream. We'll be going through all that is the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, there's not a whole lot going on right now because the Dallas Cowboys players are out for summer. They are at their summer break. We are a month away from them going to Oxnard for training camp. And in the meantime, we're holding our breaths, praying that nobody gets into any off-the-field troubles between now and then. And now it's speculation time. It's actually silly season time where you're going to hear all kinds of different ideas, concepts, and everything else, and questions, because we got a taste, just a little taste of what the Dallas Cowboys are going to be. Now, you know, the great thing we learned is Dak Prescott, the ankle is no longer a concern. Wish we could say the same for Amari Cooper. We feel like the offense should be able to take up where they left off and be better than they were last year. And the defense, well, there's still actually a lot of questions that are going on with the defense for us. We are remaking this defense. I, for one, am excited because you know, you're excited about things that you know or things that you've done and you can see it elsewhere. Because, you know, for us, you can take a guy like Vosh Lombardi. Vosh loves the offensive line because that's where he played, offensive line. You have an affinity for something that you know near and dear, that you've been down in the trenches for. Me, I was a nose guard. I was a dying breed, okay, and also a hot man on special teams, okay? Another thing that's really doesn't exist like it used to. I was a wedge buster. Well, the NFL outlawed wedges. So, again, you know, things that I did disappeared. And for us to get a true nose guard excites me. The fact that our base defense is going to be a 3-4 defense. And a lot of you don't necessarily understand the subtleties of defense. All you know is, you know, you got some big guys there. They need to be able to hold the line and try and get some pressure on the quarterback. Most people will pay attention to the quarterback, the running back, and the wide receivers. But you don't actually see what goes on the defensive line. Most of you don't know the difference between a 3-4 and a 4-3 defense, and that's okay. But if you want to see the real battles, the real stuff, so to speak, pay attention to what goes on in the line. Now, typically, the Cowboys have been a 4-3 defense. And what that means is basically it's 4 down linemen, okay? You have 2 tackles and you have 2 defensive ends. Everybody's hands in the dirt, okay? And with that, you basically are leaving the center uncovered. The center is able to help out with the guards and with the tackles and so on and things, and it's a different look. You've got 3 linebackers. You got a weak side, a middle linebacker, and a strong side. And strong side and weak side being, which side are there more men to? The center, you know, you use the center. The strong side, if there's a tight end on this side and not on that side, then this is the strong side. The other side's the weak side. Okay. My question is, see, I love, we used to call it a 50 defense. Okay, that's what we used to call it. Now, of course, they call it the 3-4. What it is you have 3 defensive linemen, usually big defensive linemen. You have a guy who's lining up over the center, okay? That will be my man Bohannon, okay? You want a big guy who can stuff the middle because he's going to have to take on the double teams coming from the guards. So you got that guy over the center. Then you have your tackles that are usually over the tackles. Now, understand, the center can shade a little bit to the left, shade a little bit to the right. And that means he's just shifting just a little bit. We got it. We got Quentin Bohannon. He is our nose tackle. Got it. That's good. Then with the tackles, typically you have longer length guys, bigger guys that can take on that push. And that's where you look at Gallimore, Tristan Hill, Brent Irving, OC, These guys are our tackles, okay? What's good about the 50 defense or the 3-4 is it's basically 5 guys that are on the line of scrimmage, but it's kind of tweaked because they don't really call them defensive ends. You don't really have defensive ends per se called defensive ends. They're actually outside linebackers that are basically defensive ends that are standing up. Are you with me with this right now? Are you following me? Right now, DeMarcus Lawrence is a hand in the dirt defensive end. Okay? When you play a 3-4, my question is, are we going to put him at defensive tackle from time to time? Because the great thing about this 3-4 defense is you can kind of move people around. And if you think about this, DeMarcus Ware, here's where you'll probably understand better. DeMarcus Ware was an outside linebacker. DeMarcus Ware very rarely ever went into coverage. DeMarcus Ware was really like a defensive end. They just call him an outside linebacker. But the difference between D-Law and DeMarcus Ware is your outside linebacker typically is standing up, 2 feet on the ground, of course, pointing inside. So now my question for the Dallas Cowboys and what I can't wait to see is, and we did a little bit this last year with DeMarcus Lawrence standing up. You've got guys, DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Terrell Besham. You've got some defensive ends that will have to play defensive linebacker, or even having Micah Parsons as an outside linebacker, which kind of, with me putting together the pieces where D-Law is working with Micah, at pass rushing, it's very conceivable that you could see him as outside linebacker. See, the thing about it, I'm trying to explain it so you understand. You have a defensive end. It's kind of like a hybrid between a defensive tackle and a linebacker. They're usually a little smaller and a little bit faster, but of course they're great against the run. An outside linebacker is typically bigger than a middle linebacker or a weak side linebacker because they're rushing passer. Think of Charles Haley. Charles Haley, you think about him getting the sacks, 101 sacks for the Dallas Cowboys. He was an outside linebacker. DeMarcus Ware, for the most part, was an outside linebacker for his career. And this is like the Wade Phillips defense that is predicated on putting pressure up the middle and stopping the quarterback from being able to move around, as well as stopping the run. And Lord knows we've had problems with all 3 of those. We don't get pressure up the middle. We've been terrible against the run, and we haven't been able to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So when you bring those outside linebackers, which D-Law and Randy Gregory are going to have to be, that's where you wreak havoc. And with this defense, when I think about if Tristan Hill can take that step, if Gallimore can take that step, and if Quentin Bohannon can just hold the middle of the field, that's kind of push that pocket back. And then with Randy Gregory, with D-Law, that pressure from the outside will squeeze the quarterbacks. And typically you get more forced fumbles because that quarterback is looking and backing up and trying to make that play real quick. And that's where that hand comes through and ends up swatting the ball down. You remember famously DeMarcus Ware. And I want to show you this clip over here real quick. This is some highlights. The problem I have is it seems like whenever I show any highlights that the YouTube NFL police always seem to get me. But what you'll see is this is actually DeMarcus Ware right here, okay? Outside linebacker, standing up, 2-point stance. Here's your defensive tackle, over the tackle. Here's your nose, right there, football length away from the nose of the center, defensive tackle, over the tackle, and outside linebacker. And part of the reason why this works so well is you've got 5-on-5. So teams have to either keep the running back in to block, or they're going to have to use the tight end to block. The tight end may chip on his way out trying to go into a route and ends up being a fast read. But this defense, and I really can't wait to see it, will overload the offensive line. And when you start doing things like stunts, like you'll do an X stunt where the tackle will go outside here wide, okay? And what it'll do is it'll end up bringing this guy in here, and sometimes it will confuse the the tackle and the tight end. And then you have your outside linebacker go right on his hip inside. And it creates big plays for the defense. Now let me show you this real quick. Boom. What you'll see is you see D-Law. Okay, you see right here, you got to push here. So when the quarterback is going to try and step up, he can't. You got to push here, push here, push here. And D-Law has got the tight end on him, and that's a mismatch. Look at this. Boom. Boom. Look at that. You see where I'm talking about? There is no space, and the biggest weakness for the Cowboys have been not being able to get that push in the middle that usually the quarterback will just step up and have a clear field of view. With this defense, it's going to change that completely. And you can see it's, easy pickings for Ware against the fullback. Now, this one is actually a 40 defense, or a 4-3. And what you'll see with the Cowboys is they'll be doing multiple fronts. And again, here we go again. D-Law coming from the outside, your 3 defensive linemen, and your outside linebacker out there. Boom. I can't wait. Personally, I can't wait to see how this defense is used. And what they're going to be doing more than anything else is they're going to be looking at some teams. Some teams, you want to get more pressure up the middle because you're worried about the running game and being able to stop them. Other games, you're going to have to worry about more of the passing, and you're going to end up using the 4-3 more because you're going to end up having more people out in coverage. It's great because the Cowboys right now have so many different pieces. We don't know who they're going to be keeping, and quite frankly, they can't keep everybody. But at the moment, they have pieces for the 4-3 and the 3-4 that will work both ways, provided that Randy Gregory and D-Law can play that outside linebacker role. And with that being said, I got some work I got to do in the workshop and some things I got to handle. So I'm going to leave you at that. I hope you tune in tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, for our live stream. We'll be going through everything that is the Dallas Cowboys, recapping what we've seen on this offseason and what it looks like for the season going forward. And as always, friends, you know the deal. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting,